It's been 12 long years since we last saw NHL stars in the Olympics. No McDavid, no Matthews, and no chance to see the best of the best fighting for their countries. Fans wondered if it would ever happen again, and now the wait is finally over. In 2026, the biggest names in hockey will clash on Olympic ice. Canada's golden dynasty, America's rising powerhouse, Europe's sleeping giants, all colliding in one arena. And the question is simple: who's going to walk away with the gold? Let me know in the comments what you think. The long wait ends. For more than 10 years, the best ice hockey players in the world were absent from the Olympics. The last time they played was in Sochi in 2014, and every tournament since has felt incomplete. The absence wasn't due to lack of interest from players, it was rooted in the NHL's own concerns. Pausing the season meant rearranging schedules, losing momentum in the playoff race, and exposing star players to injury outside of the league's control. For ownership and league executives, the risks seemed to outweigh the reward. However, the players disagreed. Representing their countries on the biggest international stage wasn't only a dream, it was part of what solidified their place in the sport's history. The NHLPA consistently pushed for a return, making clear how important Olympic participation is to the players themselves. Rob Zepp, who represented the players during negotiations, would later recall the final agreement. Very gratifying, and a win for the athletes' interests. The tension between the league's business priorities and the players' pursuit of legacy defined much of that debate. At the core was one simple question: what matters more, protecting the NHL's regular season or allowing the players the chance to create international moments? Holding up the Stanley Cup cements your name in hockey history, but winning gold for your country resonates in a different way. For players and fans, seeing the very best face one another while wearing their national colors always carried a weight the league schedule just couldn't match. For international ice hockey, the absence proved costly. Without the league's top stars, tournaments lacked the draw that could expand hockey's reach into new markets. Countries like Switzerland, Germany, and China all lost out on the chance to showcase the game in the purest form. Every Olympic cycle without NHL participation felt like untapped potential, a chance to grow the game globally that slipped away. But how did things finally change? Beginning in 2023, the NHL, NHLPA, IIHF, and IOC restarted discussions. It was never going to be easy, but the urgency had shifted. After 2 years of negotiation, the sides reached a deal in July of 2025. The tone of the announcement would show how much effort had gone into the process. Deputy Commissioner Bill Daley acknowledged the agreement as good for both players and hockey itself, and from the IIHF, President Luke Tardif pointed to the difficult back and forth required, while also emphasizing that all parties wanted a solution. It was a collective recognition that the sport's long-term health depended on making work. Even before the ink was dry, fans would get their first glimpse of the tournament to come. On June the 16th of 2025, only weeks prior to the agreement being finalized, federations released 6 initial player names for each of the 12 teams. These first 6 had helped to fuel early debates and highlight the level of talent expected in Milan-Cortina. Still, though, it's important to remember, while the federations can propose these names, the final Olympic delegations have to be officially confirmed by each country's National Olympic Committee. Rosters are far from set in stone, but the message becomes clear. The stars are preparing for a stage they had been denied for far too long. And with NHL players finally confirmed, attention quickly began to shift to the matchups that fans have been waiting to see. Which country brings the deepest lineup? Whose weaknesses might weigh heavier under Olympic pressure? That's where the story becomes most compelling, because for many, all eyes immediately turn to one looming question: Canada versus USA, a rivalry reloaded. Canada versus USA. Few rivalries in sports carry as much weight, and in Olympic hockey it takes on another level. With NHL players now confirmed for 2026, the focus turns to whether the United States can finally match Canada's history of dominance. Since NHL players first took part in 1998, Canada holds a 4-1 edge in Olympic matchups against the U.S., a record highlighted by gold medal wins in both 2002 and 2010. This time, though, the American roster looks deeper than ever, and the balance of power may be closer than it's ever been. For Canada, the list of names jumps off the page. Connor McDavid brings unmatched speed and skill. Nathan MacKinnon adds power and pace. And Cale Makar controls the blue line with elite skating and hockey sense. Even future stars like Connor McDavid could play a key role, injecting youth into a lineup already crammed full of talent. Depth has never been Canada's issue, and what counts as a third-line forward here could easily be a first-line star on most NHL teams. The harder question is how much to lean on veterans. Sidney Crosby has already delivered on this stage, winning gold in both 2010 and 14 with one of the most famous goals in Canadian hockey history. He's also the only player amongst Canada's first 6 preliminary selections to have previous Olympic experience. That makes him a proven leader in a time when the new generation is taking over. And the decision of how many minutes to give him could affect not only performance, but also team chemistry. Goaltending is where concerns linger the most. ESPN projections pointed out that Canada's crease remains their biggest question mark, with Jordan Binnington mentioned as a candidate who can look brilliant one game and shaky the next. Logan Thompson and Mackenzie Blackwood are other names floated as potential options, but none carry the same proven Olympic track record as Canada's stars up front. In a short tournament, picking the right goalie, whether based on form or reputation, could decide whether Canada adds another gold or slips early. For the Americans, the confidence is noticeable. Auston Matthews anchors the offense as a true superstar, and he's backed by ever-growing depth. The Hughes brothers provide skating and creativity, while Matthew and Brady Tkachuk bring grit with scoring touch. Jack Eichel and Charlie McAvoy round out an already impressive preliminary first 6, showing that this roster isn't only deep, it's built to challenge every strength that Canada puts forward. And this time, the U.S. may have the goaltending edge. Connor Hellebuck and Jake Ottinger headline a pool deeper and steadier than Canada's current options. And on paper, that could tilt a close matchup in America's favor, especially if one of them locks in at the right moment. Chemistry may prove just as important as raw talent, though. The recent Four Nations face-off in February of 2025 gave a preview, with hard hits, scrums, and even overtime separating the two sides. Canada still found ways to win, but the U.S. looked far from overmatched. The pieces are beginning to fit, and the roster carries a cohesion that may matter more than statistics. The result becomes a rivalry which feels as though it's entering a new phase. Canada's history and firepower still make them a favorite, but the United States has built a team that no longer looks like the underdog. Each matchup is likely to hinge on details, whether Bedard thrives under pressure, whether Crosby's leadership sparks another run, or whether the American goalies can shut the door when it matters the most. And with roster spots still being debated, from veterans trying to hold on to rising stars pushing to get in, the choices may be just as fascinating as the games themselves. For all the focus on this North American clash, though, the Olympic tournament won't be decided by 2 teams alone. In fact, there are other nations overseas who are quietly preparing lineups that could alter everything we expect. Other contenders. Beyond North America, several European teams are preparing rosters strong enough to contend for medals, because many top European names are headed to Milan. Squads like Sweden and Finland stand out as realistic threats, not just long shots. Sweden might be the most balanced of the group. On defense, Rasmus Dahlin and Victor Hedman headline a blue line that mixes size, skill, and puck movement, with both capable of dictating the flow of a game. Up front, William Nylander is on Sweden's initial list, joined by Adrian Kemp, Gabriel Landskog, and rising talent Lucas Raymond. They have a proven ability to finish scoring chances while maintaining the defensive structure that has always been a part of Sweden's identity. Sweden's first 6 selections confirm Dahlin and Hedman as anchors, and with experience from players like Landskog, the team enters as a legitimate medal favorite. Right behind them is Finland, the defending Olympic champion after capturing gold in Beijing in 2022. Alexander Barkov leads a core which includes Sebastian Aho and Mikko Rantanen, giving Finland elite two-way strength and offensive punch. Dallas defenseman Miro Heiskanen adds mobility on the back end, and Nashville's Jussi Saros, already named in Finland's first 6, provides the goaltending edge that few others can match. If short tournament goaltending swings momentum, Finland is built to thrive. Germany and Slovakia bring the most intrigue as possible disruptors. Germany's first 6 featured Leon Draisaitl and Moritz Seider, a combination of world-class scoring and steady defense. Add in Tim Stuza and you've got a group that can make a legitimate push to the medal rounds. Slovakia's initial group included Juraj Slafkovský and Simon Nemec, 2 young players already gaining big game experience and ready for breakout Olympic performances. Federations drop their first 6, but full rosters will be announced early next year. Surprises are still on the table, but what's clear already is that the 2026 Olympics won't just be about one rivalry, but about how this entire field of contenders could redefine the tournament's legacy. It's the first Olympics in 12 years with NHL players, and that alone reshapes the entire tournament. Fans already saw the first 6 announced in June, and with full rosters expected early next year, every lineup choice matters. This isn't just about medals, it's about defining careers on the biggest international stage. So, who's your pick for gold in Milan-Cortina? Be sure to drop your thoughts in the comments below. Will it be Canada, USA, or a dark horse like Sweden or Finland? And also, who's your MVP of Milan, and who do you think gets snubbed? As always, be sure to like this video, share it with a friend, and subscribe to the channel so that you never miss another great video like this one. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.